Last weekend, the Asia Talent Cup visited the Losail International Circuit in Qatar for the opening round of the 2019 season, with 7 of last year's stars joined by 14 rookie riders to represent 6 different nationalities on the road to MotoGP. Race 2 in particular provided a start-to-finish fight, with the top 7 ultimately separated by less than 3 seconds at the checkered flag. 2 Japanese riders are the early season leaders, Takuma Matsuyama taking the fight to Sho Nishimura, and eventually beaten by his fellow countrymen both on Saturday and Sunday. This weekend we head to Buriram in Thailand, the second of 6 2019 rounds in the Asia Talent Cup. Hello and welcome to the Chang International Circuit for round 2 of the Asia Talent Cup, the series representing the best of youth talents in the Asia Pacific region. 4 different nationalities have won this series in 5 years, but it's 2 Japanese riders who've emerged at the top in 2019 so far. Identical Honda NSF250R machinery for each of the competitors, so it's all down to rider skill as to whether we see any change to that pecking order this weekend. Steve English alongside me, just 20 thousandths of a second separated the top 2 last Sunday. Let's hope for more close finishes in the 2 races this weekend.
Yeah, I love the Asia Talent Cup. This is one of my favourite race series that we see supporting WorldSBK and MotoGP. It's a 6-round championship. As you said, it brings the best of the talents from Asia and Australia, and it gives them all the opportunity to race identical machinery, prepare like pros, and that's why we've been able to see some real top-class talent all the way through the Asia Talent Cup, including last week in Qatar. The Moto3 race was won by Kaito Toba, who raced the Asia Talent Cup in the past.
Let's take a look at the grid then for this one. We saw a glimpse there of Tachikon Boisri, who will start on pole position on the number 5 machine. Pretty consistent through the opening round. Did better in qualifying than the race, so he'll be hoping not to slip back from the start again here. The local rider from Thailand has a real opportunity to impress. He starts from pole. Takuma Matsuyama, the rider we've already been talking about, starts from P2. Strong start to 2019 for him. He only joined the Asia Talent Cup partway through last season, so since then picking up 4 podiums, that's an achievement, including those 2 runner-up positions last weekend. Adananta Putra starts from P3. There he is, the 14-year-old Indonesian, currently 3rd in the standings after a 4th and 3rd place finish from the 2 races in Qatar. His best weekend in the series to date. He finished only 11th overall last season, put in his best performance though in Buriram, so he'll be hoping to repeat that. Plenty of different riders from different nationalities on the grid. 3 different nationalities on the front row of the grid, 3 different nationalities on the second row of the grid. We saw the Indonesian Manandar there, who will be starting from P4. But the focus at the moment is on Sho Nishimura, the 17-year-old from Japan, the series leader after last weekend's opening round in Qatar. Didn't have a great round here in Buriram in 2018, which was his debut season, admittedly, in the Asia Talent Cup. But he started 2019 as the favourite and justified that tag at the opening round. He only starts 5th position here, but he has got off to the best possible start to 2019.
Yeah, Nishimura, the double winner in that opening round of the year. 2 very different race wins as well, as we saw in the highlights just before the start of the show here. But for all these riders, the key thing is, can you break away like we saw Nishimura do in race 1 in Qatar, or do you have to try and race within the pack, try and get yourself to the front of the field? We saw Nishimura could do that just as well in Qatar, but can he do it here in Buriram from that second row of the grid spot? That's what's going to be key for him, is just to be able to make sure that he's able to fight with all these riders at the front of the field.
2 Thai riders within the front 2 rows of the grid, so that's good news for the home fans. We saw the 3rd Thai rider on the grid there, Piyawat Patumios, who will be starting from P7, the oldest rider in the field. Abdu Matakim starts from P8. started only 17th on his Asia Talent Cup debut last weekend. Still managed to make it up to 9th in race 1, and a much improved qualifying earlier today. He has a real chance to improve here. Mahadi, the first of the Malaysian riders, the 16-year-old, might be familiar to you if you watch the CV. He rode in that championship in 2018. This, though, his Asia Talent Cup debut this season. 7 points in Qatar. He only started 16th on the grid there in Qatar, so up on the 3rd row of the grid here. He'll be satisfied with that, as we see rounding out the top 10, Herjan Ferdaus, who was well and truly among the competitors in Qatar, the best of the 2019 debutant in the standings at the moment, and sticking with the more experienced riders in the lead groups. There's a wide variety of age ranges, Steve English alongside me, from 12 all the way up to 19, and a wide variety of levels of experience on these circuits. Some riders were in this championship last season. Actually, most of the top performers at the moment in the standings are in their 2nd season in the Asia Talent Cup. That means occasionally we get a disparity, but it also means that the more the season goes on and the more everyone gets to grips with the machinery, the closer that fight becomes.
Yeah, the one thing for all these riders that return to the class, they return with a lot of pressure on their shoulders. There's only a handful of riders that are actually coming back for their 2nd seasons in the Asia Talent Cup. The Asia Talent Cup, right from the start with Alberto Puig as the talent spotter, he always said that basically he only wants riders to have 2 or 3 years in this class. If they can't show enough in those 2 or 3 years, they're just not going to be able to make the cut. And that's why a lot of the time you see riders make a big step forward in year 2, but that's where they go from a first season where they're travelling around with the Asia Talent Cup, going to support MotoGP races, World Superbike races, and then suddenly you have to then make that next step up as well. And for some riders, it's easier than for others. But as we saw with Nishimura last time out in Qatar, he certainly made that step forward in year 2 as well.
18 riders in total on our grid here. Unfortunately, the Turkish rider that we were talking about earlier on, Erbe, during our World Superbike coverage, he has been withdrawn before race action here today. So after a crash, unfortunately for him, he's withdrawn through injury. So we are down to 18 riders, but it's still a packed grid. We saw that grid fragment into 3 parts in the races in Qatar. The top 2 able to break away, then a sort of pursuing group that was never too far behind, particularly in race 2, and then a separate fight further back for the sort of 8th and 9th positions, and that's reflected and reflective of the standings. So whether we'll see exactly the same thing happen here today, we don't know, but certainly similar machinery, and of course those big long straights for people to tuck in and get a slipstream advantage as well.
Yeah, what we've seen in the past here in Buriram is that it has usually been a bigger pack than in Qatar. Qatar, we've seen plenty of riders really able to open a big gap at the front to try and scream away from the rest of the field. Here in Buriram, we tend to see a lot of last lap. And you can see there for Putra just on the front row of the grid, just getting a last minute bit of help from the mechanics there, so he should be ready to go now. But for all these riders, they know that Buriram, it comes down to the last lap, down to the last corner more often than not. We've seen the likes of Somkhet Chantra, of course, he's racing a Moto2 now, and we've seen him in the last corner having some real tasty battles down into that section with riders in this Asia Talent Cup.
Well, place your bets now, ladies and gentlemen, because we are building up to get underway with race 1 of the Asia Talent Cup, the 2nd round of their 2019 season. You've got the championship leader, Sho Nishimura, starting down in 5th position. He's certainly going to be one to watch. There is a look at the current standings. Matsuyama, 10 behind, having finished 2nd on each occasion in Qatar, so damage limitation from him, but he now starts 3 places up on Nishimura, his rival, from P2. So 14-year-old Matsuyama with an opportunity to make up some ground here. And Adinanta Putra, who was the fastest rider of anyone in the pre-season test that took place, he starts from P3 here. So the 2 riders directly behind Sho Nishimura in the standings have an opportunity to make up ground on him here in race number 1.
For these riders, they'll know that the real opportunity is to try and make sure that you're able to get to the front as quickly as possible. In the Asia Talent Cup race, just like what we see in the British Talent Cup race, that season will start pretty soon now as well. And in the European Talent Cup, it's all about being able to make sure you get to the front of the field. The riders that can stay at the front of the field are the ones that are going to challenge for the race wins. If we see riders start to yo-yo up and down through the leading riders, they're usually the ones that get spat out the back once we get towards the end of the race. But for all these riders in the Asia Talent Cup, they know that this is a real stepping stone class. You can use this to get into the Red Bull Rookies that supports all the European rounds in MotoGP. You can use it to get to the Junior Moto3 World Championship as well. We've seen the likes of Dennis Onsu with the title winner in 2017, his brother Kanotsu, of course. He went on to win the Red Bull Rookies and then also the Junior Moto3 World Championship. And we've seen Samkia Chantra, Sasaki, Kaito Toba. We've seen a host of leading riders in this class move on to bigger and brighter futures.
Let's make a final mention of Tachikon Boisri, who is our pole sitter here, the Thai rider. There he is on the number 5 machine. He really has been the dominant force so far this weekend. Of course, inevitably a track that he knows well. He only comes into this race 6th in the standings, but he's made it up onto pole position. He's been fastest through practice as well. So he is certainly the rider to beat here today. And there were gaps between the riders in qualifying as well. Half a second covering the top 4. Might not be quite as dramatic, the gaps between them, when we come to the end of this race. We tend to see pack racing and close finishes. The green flag has been waved from the back of the grid, which means we're almost ready to go racing in the Asia Talent Cup. Round 2 gets underway here at the Jang International Circuit. Fast start from P3 from Adananta Putra. We'll see if he can get down the inside into turn number 1. And Nishimura is also in the mix there in the midfield. But Putra with a good start from P3, and that's been the key early on for him. Still, it's Boisri who leads, also trying to come through on the number 11 machine. Matsuyama starting to recover. He tucks in now behind Boisri as they go down the long straight. It seems even longer, of course, on these smaller capacity machines. They're going to go 3 abreast, and Matsuyama almost comes into contact there with Putra as he claims the inside line and claims the race lead.
On that number 11 machine, really just getting down the inside left, was braking really late and just had to do everything he could to try and get that bike stopped, but managed to get it stopped, take the lead. But you can see there from the number 5 of Boisri, he's dropped down to 3rd position, but immediately using the slipstream to try and get down the inside. It's the fast left-hander, but runs in a little bit too hot.
4 abreast further back in the battle for 2nd position, so we're a long way away from deciding a potential race victor here. 16 laps, of course, this race, but it's Matsuyama who did well, actually, because he didn't get off to a good start from P2. On the front row of the grid, he was starting to get swallowed up by the riders from the 2nd row. As down the inside now comes Boisri, our pole sitter, to recover the lead. Matsuyama immediately attempting to fight back, as we've got 2 riders further back running off the circuit all together. But Boisri, once again, setting the pace here.
Number 5, Boisri, has been the pace setter all the way through this weekend. Free practice 1, free practice 2, the qualifying session as well. He's led each of those sessions, now leading the race here, but he's going to come under pressure once again from Matsuyama. Is he going to try and get down the inside into turn 12? Not quite close enough, but he'll certainly be close enough to use the slipstream to try and attack again.
As they come across the line for the first time then, it's Boisri who leads from Matsuyama in 2nd position. They've managed to open a little bit of daylight ahead of Adananta Putra in 3rd position. Matsuyama wasn't quite close enough to make the move into turn number 1, but he's tucked in nicely. Nishimura is still down in 5th position, which is perhaps a bit of a surprise on the evidence of what we saw from the championship leader in Qatar. Now comes the move from Matsuyama. He's certainly building up towards it. He tucked back in once again to ensure that he got as much slipstream as possible. Now he's going to look down the inside of Boisri. Boisri holds the line well. Putra has to do the same against Manananda further back, who sits in 4th place. So the field's starting to spread out, particularly a gap emerging behind 6th position. The top 6 trying to go together. We've got a 2-rider fight out in front as well.
Yeah, Warren on that number 6 machine at the back of that leading group, just trying to stay in touch there as well with the likes of Nishimura. But you can see at the front once again, Matsuyama just able to try and carry that speed through the left-hander at turn 4, but you can see how easy it is for all these riders to run in a little bit too hot, leave the door open for everyone else to try and attack once again. And that's pretty much always been the case here in the Asia Talent Cup in Buriram.
Our top 6 qualifiers are our top 6 on the track at the moment, and as you can see from that shot that includes and encompasses all of the top 10, there's a second of daylight now behind Thong Napakan in 6th position and the rest of the chasing group in 7th. So far this race is emerging and panning out as I said things did in Qatar, where it splintered into 2, and then later on there was another splinter with the top 2 breaking away. No sign of that for the moment at least. Matsuyama is going great guns out in front, and Nishimura now up into 5th position is being challenged, but not quite. Nishimura thinking about a move down the inside. Boisri having fallen back, but Nishimura, the championship leader, keeping his powder dry for the moment at least. There he is, the number 3 machine with the Japanese flag on his helmet. just in with the lead group and starting ever so slightly to drop off now from Napakan, who sits in 6th position, the second of our Thai riders.
Yeah, and this is going to be one of the key things for the number 5 there, Brasserie, just to be able to see if he's able to collect himself, get himself back to the front here. He's got a lot of experience. He was a podium man here and in Sepang last year in the Asia Talent Cup. He's also raced in the CEV Championship in the Moto2 class, so he has a lot of experience, the 19-year-old, but now he needs to make sure he's able to put that to good use and keep a cool head here. You can see that the group has started to split even further, and you've only got that top 5 now.
And Thong Napakan in 6th position had a good look over his shoulder there. I wonder whether he was trying to think about whether it's worth tucking into a separate group and bring the whole group forward with him. For the moment, at least, he can't stick with the top 5, and the top 5 really are jostling for position. At the moment, it's Matsuyama, although it might not be for much longer as he comes under attack, and it's Munandar who takes up the lead out in front now. So it's Munandar from Matsuyama in 2nd, Putra in 3rd, no, Putra in 4th position, sorry, Nishimura back through up into P3. So these top 5 changing positions constantly. The challenge now is for Thong Napakan, who's the best part of a second behind this lead group. All he can hope is that while they fight amongst one another, he can close back in. Indeed, he has started to close back in now from P6.
I'd say I love the optimism here of showing his championship standings as it stands in the Asia Talent Cup, because that's going to change all the time here with this leading group. You can see at the front it is still Matsuyama out in front on the number 11 machine. You can see the number 4 coming under pressure now. Mundanar, of course, he was a podium man here last year, trying to get down the inside into turn 12. Good move if he's able to hold on to that lead and get the drive across the line, but it looks like he's going to give up that line down in towards turn 1, and you should see Matsuyama get back into the lead here on the braking. Nice and comfortable there from the number 11.
So it's Matsuyama who leads then from Munandar in 2nd. We've lost Igarashi further down the field. That's him there on the number 14 machine, or more to the point, off the number 14 machine. He'd set the fastest lap of the race on lap number 2 as well, so a real shame for him, and we might get to catch a glimpse of it. Here it is on the final turn, so the slowest turn on the circuit, and perhaps a little bit of over-ambition there for Igarashi, who's come down.
Yeah, easily done in these Asia Talent Cup races to do that down in turn 12. We see plenty of crashes there each year in this class, so unfortunately just down and out of this race. But at the front of the field you can see that the leading group, once again, just by fighting with one another, they end up giving the number 6 of Warwick that chance to close that gap once again.
So Thong Napakan back on the tail of Bwasri, the 2 Thai riders right in the mix for a podium place here today. It's Putra, who, as I said, was the pre-season form man, who is out in front at the moment. Matsuyama with an opportunity to make up ground in the championship, but watch out for Nishimura. He's the 3rd of that group with the green helmet there on the number 3 machine. They're going to go almost 4 abreast once again into the right-hander. But as I was saying, Nishimura has done a good job because he started on the first lap, didn't look as though he was going to make too much progress. He is now right in the mix with that lead group, and in fact he's already starting to challenge for the race lead. Could it be 3 wins out of 3 for the Japanese rider?
As you said, Alex did the double last time out in the season opener in Qatar, and trying to put himself into position now to take the lead of this race. But for Nishimura down the inside into turn 12, and you can see Matsuyama following him through as well. They were 1 and 2 in both of the races in Qatar last time out, and they're running 1 and 2 now.
Here they are in the top 2 positions, streaming past our commentary position into turn number 1. Then it's Nishimura out in front from Matsuyama in 2nd position. Familiar tale, this, as Steve said, the top 2 in that order from the opening 2 races of the campaign. But we've got the pack fight that we were expecting, and it looks as though 2 are about to blitz past Nishimura now. It's Matsuyama who takes up the race lead. Putra alongside him. Nishimura is trying to jostle for space. He's going to go as wide as you like to try and get all the way around the outside of all of them. He gets back past 2 of them, but Putra still holds the apex quite nicely, and we're seeing riders starting to work out what they can and can't do on this circuit to gain and hold positions. And Nishimura, with that wide entry there, has got himself into the slipstream, and he should be able to capitalise on it here.
Yeah, the key thing for these riders is to try and learn how to race this track. You spend practice sessions trying to set your fastest times, but now it really is a case of trying to be able to put the lessons to good use. And you can see with Nishimura, he's certainly doing everything he can to get himself to the front of this group on that number 3 machine.
Napakan up into 5th position, so it's Munandar now who has been relegated to the tail of this group. But oh dear, problems out in front and problems for Bwasri, and he is going to remain within that lead group, but he drops 4 positions, 5 positions all in one go, and not sure exactly what happened to Bwasri there, but he just lost it and ends up slipping to the tail end of that little group there.
See, if we get a replay of that, but a mistake there from the number 5 opened the door for everyone, and they all just barged right past him, and they've dropped him down to 5th position now.
And Third-House has joined the group as well from P7, so you can see it's now a 7-rider battle as Putra recovers the lead from Nishimura out in front. The green-helmeted Nishimura now in P2, but every time you look away a shot like this, they could have changed 3 or 4 positions, as Putra it is who leads, Matsuyama it is in 3rd place, so actually they didn't curse at the commentator. Nishimura remains in 2nd position. Will we get a catch a glimpse of the problems for our race leader? Boisry was lucky to stay on there.
You can see there from the race leader at the time, that front end just folded on him, and he managed to somehow keep himself up. Maybe he picked up a few tips from Marc Marquez last time out in Qatar, but you can see there from the number 5 just trying to regroup, trying to set himself up.
I'm sure that's going to go down as one of the saves of the season in the Asia Talent Cup from Boisry, who sits in 5th position. As I said, it's now a 7-rider group, all separated by less than a second. They've got 2 seconds behind them to the next train that you can see in that shot further back on the horizon as Putra comes down the inside of Matsuyama to take up the race lead, and 3rd position is with Munandar. So Nishimura, who did at one stage lead, is still in that lead group. He's back in 5th position again now, ahead of Thong Napakan, who's held 6th place for much of this race.
Back of that group, as you said, Warwick on that number 6, just trying to make sure he's in that position to try and pick off any riders in front of him if they start to fight with one another. He was a podium man in Qatar last time out, but hasn't quite had that pace here in Buriram. But once you're in this group, you stay in the group.
And we've said that this circuit, with its characteristics, with its long straights, means that even when the gap does suddenly get up to half a second, which is something like the gap we're looking at between riders occasionally here, that immediately comes down the next time they make their way onto a straight. You can see it there. It's sort of an almost inverse of the concertina effect. It happens on the straights instead of heading into the turns. It's Matsuyama who leads at the moment, and if things were to stay as they are, he would be the championship leader. But a long way to go, as Steve said earlier on. That provisional championship standings, as things stand, goes up and down throughout the race in general.
Yeah, long way to go in the race, long way to go in the season as well for these Asia Talent Cup riders. It won't be until the middle of July that they're back in action, and then they'll be on the Asian swing for MotoGP as well to finish the season. So plenty of time for these riders really to find their feet, get some more experience. And a lot of these riders race the Asia Pacific Championships or the local Japanese championships as well for the Japanese riders. So racing 250s and just trying to gain as much experience as possible through the course of the season. But the Asia Talent Cup, the big benefit that they get from this, Alex, it gives them the preparation, the grounding to try and know how to train, know how to prepare for races, and know how to work within a team. And that really is the key lessons that you get from the Asia Talent Cup, the British Talent Cup, the European Talent Cup, and then championships like the Red Bull Rookies as well.
Just had an opportunity there to take a glimpse of where the riders are further down the field, the battle for 8th position and the battle for 11th, but they are very distinct fights. That gap of 2 seconds between 7th and 8th is now extended to 2.5 seconds, and there's a gap of over 4 seconds behind 10th place to P11. So as we said, the field splinters in general. The riders with more experience and more capability will blast away out in front, but they are very much keeping one another in check as a result of that slipstream advantage. For the moment at least, it's Boisry who leads, from Matsuyama in 2nd, Putra trying to challenge. This could be a good race for the Thai representatives. If they can just stay in that lead group, they'll have a good odds of getting onto the podium at the end of the race.
Yeah, we've seen plenty of Thai riders in the past having good results. Shantra has won here, and a couple of other riders as well. So this really has been a good hunting ground for the local riders here, but is anyone going to be able to try and take the fight now to Boisry? Because the key thing all week has been he's been the fastest man in each session. If he can take advantage of riders fighting behind him, he might be able to break away from them. But we've seen already, as you said, Alex, once you get a gap in front, on the slipstream, you just lose that advantage straight away. There's 3 long straights here in Buriram, 4 straights really for these smaller capacity 250cc bikes, and it really is a case of just trying to get away from the group being one of the big challenges for these Asia Talent Cup riders. You can see already that Putra's managed to get himself back to the front of that group. Putra, of course, finished on the podium in race 2 in Qatar as well, so he knows how to get himself in and about at the front of the field.
Tachikon Boisri has now recovered the race lead. He and Warithon Napakon are the two Thai riders well and truly in the mix in this fight, as Nishimura thinks about a move down the inside line, but in the end has to hold on to fourth position. His fight at the moment with Matsuyama, because the two of them have a gap of 11 points to Putra and then Boisri in the standings further down. So their fight amongst themselves at the moment for third position is also critical in the context of the points overall. A long way to go in this Asia Talent Cup, admittedly. We are still in March, and as Steve said, still further rounds to come in July and then later on in the campaign as well. I think 4 of the rounds combine with the MotoGP calendar as a sport class, the MotoGP. And so packed stands all the way through the season for these Asia Talent Cup riders. And there's local interest here, of course, with the Thai representatives, 2 of them running inside the top 6. Don Napakon now just over a second back from the race leader, Boisri, his fellow countryman, who leads them onto the start-finish straight once again. Look at that pack all going together. Fantastic to see.
Yeah, exactly what you want to see in the Asia Talent Cup. It's all about being able to use your racecraft in this class. That's what you're trying to learn in the Asia Talent Cup. It's all about trying to understand where you need to be at the right time during the race. We're only at the halfway stage of the race, so for all these riders, they know that the race is going to come down to a fight between this group, so you really want to just make sure that you're able to learn and understand where your rivals are fast. This could be the first time that you've been in behind them on track all the way through this weekend, so you really want to use these opening laps to try and gauge that, try and understand where they're strong, and then try and make sure that you're in a position to make a move.
Tachikon Boisri has been the lead performer all weekend through Friday. So far through Saturday, he's led much of this race as well. But what's going to be critical is who gets out of that final turn in front, because Boisri can lead as many laps as he wants to, but if he's not in front when they cross the checkered flag, that's all going to mean very little indeed. We're about halfway through this race now, and it's Boisri who leads. But as we've said, these early laps are more about establishing who the groups of contenders are, and then the actual fight is ignited on the final couple of laps.
Yeah, exactly. And just looking through the last couple of laps, through that previous section there, just down in towards turn 7, down in towards turn 8, it really looks like the number 11 bike of Matsuyama has a big advantage through there. So he's going to try and make sure he carries that speed in the final laps to try and set up a move down in towards this final corner.
So strategy also important. The riders wanting to be in the right place heading out of turn number 11 and down the straight. And talking about moves down the inside, it's Matsuyama, who Steve was just highlighting as one of the potential challengers for this victory, who has taken up the race lead now ahead of Putra in second and Boisri in third. Putra, who has got in and amongst this group. I tell you what, the other rider who deserves some credit is Verdaus, because he sits in 5th position now, and at one stage he was more than a second back from the group. He just inched his way into it, and now he's up into P5 and challenging for a podium place. It shows it's possible if you get a drift from the lead group to recover.
Yeah, as you said, Verdaus just doing a solid job there, the Indonesian rider, to just pick off riders as the opportunities present themselves. That's all you can do in this class, really. You're not going to, generally speaking, be that much faster than everyone else that you can just easily make the moves. But for the likes of all these riders in the lead group, it really is a case of just trying to make sure that you understand as much as possible before those final 3 laps of the race.
3 abreast once again, this time down the inside. It's Nishimura, our championship leader, nursing that 10-point advantage, who would extend it if things stay as they are. But I can tell you with 100% certainty that things are not going to stay as they are. We've seen the race positions change throughout so far. Will there be any little fragmentation of this lead septet, or will we see this be the group now right the way towards the finishers? Down the inside now for second position gets Matsuyama on Putra. We've got the top 2 in the championship standings in the top 2 positions in the race now as well.
Yeah, exactly what we saw in Qatar with those 2 riders at the front of the field, and also with Putra up there as well, finished on the podium in the second race of the weekend in Qatar. So those 3 riders were the top 3 last time out, and for each of them, they're going to just make sure that they're trying to break away from the group behind them. If they can work together, they can break away, but if they fight with one another, this leading group stays as a leading group of 7.
It certainly looked on that lap in particular as though they were really trying to strike and say now is the time to move forward. And of course these riders at the very sharp end have the experience to know when that moment is, and Nishimura with a new fastest lap of the race is pulling here out in front as Nishimura comes under attack in either direction. Boisri goes one way, Putra goes in the other, so there goes the theory of the top two trying to pull away. Well, they were trying to do it, they're not going to manage it as they get sucked back into the group once again, certainly for Nishimura, who is relegated to fourth.
Yeah, once you're then on those long straights, if there's any slipstream in front of you, you'll suck right back up towards the rider in front of you. You just use that slipstream just to close that speed, close that gap on all the riders in front of you, and that's exactly what happened there with the number 5 of Boisri, able to close that gap down. You can see in second spot, just trying to keep Matsuyama honest at the front and trying to get down the inside. Good clean move down in towards turn 5, nice and easy there to retake the lead, and exactly what you need to do as well. At this stage of the race, it really is a case of just making sure that you can stay in those front 3-4 riders just so that you're in the right position. If you're starting to drop yourself back in towards 6th and 7th, it gets more and more difficult to try and make those moves as we tick off the laps.
And the fact is that Ferdaus and Thongnapakan have held 6th and 7th positions for the majority of this race between them, and that does rather suggest that they haven't been able to establish themselves properly.
Ooh.
Oh, big wobble there for Putra on the number 16 machine. He's going to lose position, but he's going to stay within that group. He'll be exposed coming down the straight as well, although he does manage to hold on, but that was a real frightful moment for Putra.
Yeah, managed to hold on to it, and we should be able to get a replay of it now. Keep an eye out there for the number 16. Big slide coming through turn 10, and it bucks again on him, and somehow manages to stay on. It's more luck than judgment to stay on in a slide like that. But for Putra, the key thing is, let's see if he's able to attack straight back or if it's cost him some confidence. You can see the number 16 right behind the number 10 machine. Is he going to try and make that move on Ferdaus down in towards the hairpin? You can see at the front of the field that another change of the lead, with Boisri able to get himself through once again. But you can see there with Putra on the number 16 down the inside. So clearly that clear crash hasn't cost too much confidence.
No, of course, now he's confident that if it goes wrong, he can save it. Working his way back through then on the number 16 machine, Putra, who's having a look now at Nishimura as they come down the straight side by side. It's Boisri who leads. Matsuyama might take that from him through the left-hander. He does indeed. An opportunity to get back up the inside for Boisri. Can he take it? They're 4 abreast again. The number 3 Nishimura is going for a long-range effort down the inside to take 3rd place. Nishimura in and amongst them as Matsuyama and Nishimura, the championship rivals, resume their rivalry. Matsuyama with a bold move down the inside. That's not a regular overtaking position there, but Matsuyama manages to pull that off. Overtakes everywhere here in the Asia Talent Cup.
Yeah, Matsuyama all the way through this has been faster through 7 and 8, and just able to use that to carry the speed and set up those moves, but doing exactly what he needs to, staying at the front of the group. There's only 4.5 laps left in this race. And you can see just through the section now where we had that massive slide for Putra last time out, he's already managed to get himself back up into 3rd. Is he up into 2nd? Down the inside. So clearly he's been able to have that confidence. As you said, Alex, maybe the confidence is, oh, I can't crash through here.
Well, just as you said the word crash, Steve, Ryosuke Bando on the number 8 machine has gone down. If that's not curse of the commentator, I don't know what is. He was in 16th position anyway, I think, by my reckon, possibly a little bit higher, on the fringes of the points. So, yeah, this is at the front of that 3rd group he was. And he's come down. That is very heavy indeed, and spectacular as well, as bits of the machine fly away and sparks flying as well. Thankfully, the rider on his knees at this point already, but concern obviously as he immediately went down, because that was quite a spectacular one as we saw on the replay.
Yeah, big crash there for Bando with that high side. So with the track conditions as they are, around about 50 degrees centigrade track conditions, it can get greasy, it can get slippy, and we've seen quite a few slides already from riders, and unfortunately for Bando, just got caught out by that. But you can see at the front of the field still Matsuyama out in front with 3.5 laps remaining.
And it is still a 7-rider group. separated by 1 second, with Matsuyama trying to break away out in front. He's a tenth of a second clear of Putra. He was last time they crossed the timing beam, because that looks a lot less than that right now. Likewise, the gap to third position that had started to emerge, Ferdhouse has brought that down. This will be an impressive effort from Ferdhouse if he can get up and remain in the top three, remembering where he came from in the early stages of this race. He was at P10 on the grid, and he's up in third position here as they go three abreast through the right-hander, and that was never the plan, I don't think, as Manandar tries to recover position. They're swarming all over the place like an absolute pack, and Manandar in the end thinks better of that move and says, you know what, I'll just tuck back into the slipstream and have another go next time around. Confirmation of the standings then, with 3 laps remaining. It's Matsuyama out in front, it's Putra in second, it's Ferdhouse up in third, great effort from him, Manandar in fourth, Nishimura, Boisserie and Thongnapakam, the Thai riders at the moment just primed and in position to try and challenge, but not quite at the sharp end. And actually, when you look at that shot, if anything, starting to become elongated at the back of the group. Yeah,
just like an elastic band now, it's starting to stretch out at the front of the field. You can see there with Matsuyama, he came in to that corner in the lead. He's going to leave it in fourth position there, so it just shows you how easy it is just to get overtaken in the Asia Talent Cup. And that's why the key thing is to always keep yourself in a position to get to the front of the group. You don't need to be at the front of the group until the checkered flag's out, but you need to be in a position to try and make some moves.
Again, 4 riders in the mix, and you always worry when you see them going in like that there's going to be a contact or a connection, particularly with bold moves down the inside like that one from way back. You really rely on the compliance of the riders around you, and when they're inexperienced, you're not sure to get it.
Yeah, it really is a case of, I'm coming down this line, and it's up to you to make sure that nothing happens from that. We've seen with Nishimura, he's taken that really tight line down the inside into the turn 5 a few times now to make moves, and he's made another move stick there on the number 16 of Putra as well.
It's a lot of confidence he shows in himself, but also, as I've said, in his fellow riders, because when he makes those moves from way back, it's not like they've got massive mirrors to know what's coming towards them, and there's no guarantee when you're 4 abreast that you get things absolutely right. And we do occasionally see rather spectacular crashes in the Asia Talent Cup with riders coming together. It's been great riding from the top 7 out in front so far, though. How have they kept their powder? Is it dry enough to launch a last explosion? 1.3 seconds is the gap with 2 laps remaining.
Yeah, as you said, Alex, 2 laps remaining for these riders. There's 24 turns left, and these riders will know in their head they'll be counting all the way down to turn 12 on the next lap, because that's what this race is going to be won, and it's all going to be about who's able to carry the speed down in towards that section. You can see down here in towards the hairpin, the number 3 of Nishimura trying to make the move to get into the lead, but Putra once again good on the brakes to make the move on the number 16 machine. But like what we saw last time out as well, last lap, we saw the race leader move from 1st to 4th down in towards that turn. So now with the number 11 of Matsuyama, is he going to be able to try and make a move into the fast left-hander and then try and attack down in towards turn 5? You want to use this penultimate lap just as a bit of a trial run for the final lap of the race.
I love how that timing tower has put them all there as a pack together. You can see how close they're running on the circuit as well. It's Nishimura for the moment at least ahead of Putra, but as Steve has already said, being first at this point doesn't guarantee you even a place on the podium, because if you get freight trained by someone moving down the inside of you and moving you off the racing line, you could easily end up at the back of the group. It's Thongnapakam who is at the back of that group, and actually was thinking about a move there on Boisserie. The 2 Thai riders not doing one another any favours fighting over 6th position, because the top 5 are the ones who've shown, if anything, the likelihood of breaking away. When there has been a gap that's emerged, it's been in front of those 2 Thai riders.
Yeah, and that's the problem if you're the number 5 of Boisserie. You've fallen off the back of that group despite being the fastest man all the way through this weekend. The number 4 trying to get down the inside. That's Mundanar, and he's been a podium man here last year in the Asia Talent Cup in Buriram. Is he going to be able to be a race winner here this year? There's only 1 lap left for the Asia Talent Cup riders to try and settle this one, but this group's been together all the way through this race. And the number 4 of Mundanar comes through turn 1 in the lead. He's not going to go to turn 3 in the lead though.
Sit back and enjoy. It's going to be chaos. It's the final lap of the Asia Talent Cup here at the Chang International Circuit. Race number 1. And now is the time to make your move. Putra giving signals to the riders around him as he leads the way. But look at them all, swarming all on different racing lines. And the number 6, Thong Napakan, has said, you know what, I'm going to go for it. Down the inside from way back. And he almost made contact actually with Munandar in second position. It's Putra who leads. Munandar in second position. Thong Napakan is trying to impress the home crowd here in Thailand, but he's got Nishimura for company and Matsuyama as well, the other of the championship contenders, as the lead group starts to break away now of the top 6.
Yeah, Nishimura's tried to make moves into this corner a few times. You can see the number 3 trying to get down the inside as well. Manages to get himself up into second spot, but it's from this point onwards that we saw the number 11 of Matsuyama really strong. Is he going to be able to make some moves here? He's down in 5th spot at the moment.
Not anymore. 4th position now for Matsuyama as he cuts his way through. Boisri is up there as well and challenging. Nishimura tries to break the slipstream by cutting to the inside and then back onto the racing line. So we are seeing some slightly different strategies than what we've seen previously. But at the moment, as Steve said, Boisri is surprisingly out of position as they make their way through turns 10 and 11 onto the long straight here. Who will lead at the end of turn number 12? Who will lead across the start-finish stripe? Boisri now tries to make his move and dives down into turn number 12, covering across his Nishimura. Where has he come from? And Matsuyama is there as well. It's a drag race down to the line, and it's Munandar, I think, who gets there in the end. Munandar, I saw Nishimura and Matsuyama tuck themselves into the group and said, we're going to take advantage of the slipstream all the way down the inside into the final turn. But Munandar was brave enough to hold on. So it's Munandar who wins. Nishimura and Matsuyama, the top 2 in the championship. The gap between them is further extended as Nishimura takes second position. Boisri misses out on a place on the podium, as does the other lead Thai rider, Thong Napakan. Devastation for Boisri because, as we said, he has been the fastest rider and the one to beat all weekend. But it's just that situation of that last lap strategy. When you're in that pack, it's about getting things right. A little bit of luck, admittedly, as well. And Boisri will have to chance his arm again here tomorrow at the Chang International Circuit in race number 2.
Yeah, but for Munandar, I'm too excited after that. For the race winner, so. Munandar, he does a really good job on that final corner just to be able to get himself through. You can see there with Nishimura as well. And for Nishimura, finishing second there, it's a good start to the season, even if he's had a bit of a problem there with his bike, needing to be pushed back to Parc Ferme. But for all these riders, the key thing really is just to put yourself into a position to make sure that you're able to make the move on that final lap into that final corner. Really good stuff, though, from Munandar to take that. Last year he was on the podium here. This year he picks up the win, and keep an eye out there for the number 4. Look at how he just drives around the outside of everyone here and just gets on the gas, picks up the speed. You can see the elbows coming out there from Nishimura, and then he slams the tank. But you can see the elbows might have come out from Nishimura, but for the race winner, he's already got his arms in the air. He knows he's got this race won.
Nishimura was turning across. He realised too late that he hadn't covered the outside line. He tries to turn across and it is too late. Munandar comes through, and I think that's why Nishimura is slamming his hand down in frustration, because he thought he'd planned it absolutely spot on to take a 3rd consecutive race victory. Not so. It's Munandar who takes it, and I can't stress enough the extent to which that is a real surprise result. He was only 10th overall last season, Munandar, 8th overall leaving Qatar, and that's certainly going to surge him upwards in the standings overall.
Yeah, for last season in particular, Munandar really did struggle with a lot of crashes, a lot of retirements, but he was always in that front group as well. So showed the pace last year, didn't have the results to really show for it, but maybe he'll be able to use this victory as a bit of a stepping stone for this season as well. It's going to be interesting to see what he does in tomorrow's 2nd race and whether or not he's able to maintain that form.
Munandar, a podium finisher in race 2 here last March, so this time last year. Clearly he enjoys this track, and he proved it there, didn't he? Out in front. Brave move around the outside of the final turn, because it wouldn't have taken much for one of the other riders to shut him out, but in the end it was the perfect strategy all the way around the outside. Nice wide track here at the Chang International Circuit, and Munandar used every inch of it just to keep up his speed as much as anything around the final turn.
Yeah, did very well and judged it to perfection. You can see Nishimura, he'll feel that he didn't really do too much wrong, but he'll also feel in his head that he did enough wrong to lose that race, because he certainly put himself into position to win that race. But this man, Munandar, on the number 4 machine, certainly earned that victory as well.
And in the context once Nishimura settles down after that race of the championship, to be beaten by a rider who was well adrift on points after the opening round in Qatar. He won't be too disappointed about it when he reflects on it. 14 points is the gap between the top two. Then there's a bit of a gap that's emerged to Putra in third position in the standings, having finished there down in fifth position in the race. And it's Munandar, who, as I said previously, came into this race in 8th position overall, who gains 4 places to move from 11 points and well up the field by taking the 25 championship points on offer there. 36 he now moves on to, and up into 4th position overall. Still a long way to go in the series overall, and actually that big old gap in the middle, or in the early stages even of the season, means that those riders who do have local or international commitments can carry on making progress to try and challenge later on in the season. Yeah,
that's the one thing about the Asia Talent Cup. If you're 12, 13, 14 years of age, between now and July, you'll change quite a bit. And it really is a case of just evolving through the course of the season, learning as much as you can, and just putting all those experiences to good use whenever the season resumes after this Buriram round in a couple of months' time. But you can see here on that final corner, just that big group trying to come across the line, and just perfectly judged there by the race winner.
Very close indeed for 2nd and 4th positions in the end, as you can see here. Look at them crossing the line all together. Nishimura disappointed, but actually he was only fractions ahead of Matsuyama, and if he'd been beaten by Matsuyama, that would have cost him points in the championship overall. Not that the riders at this age ever think about that. The racing instinct, which we see grow, if anything, as the riders get older, is there, and they want to take the checkered flag if at all possible, and it certainly was possible for Nishimura there.
Yeah, and that's the thing for all these riders. They'll want to win the championship, but they'll also know that the most important thing is this is a talent cup. This is about being able to put your best foot forward, and a lot of the times the easiest way to do that is just to make sure that you're treating it as races just as much as a championship. And for all these riders, that's exactly what they're doing now. Different race going on now as well in the golf cart, as we see the podium finishers head over to the podium. They actually have to cross through the racetrack, so opportunity there for the riders now just to head over to the podium, have a little bit of a moment there to relax just before the joy of the podium. But definitely for all these riders, Alex, this is part of the learning experience as well, seeing what it's like on the big stage with WorldSBK or MotoGP.
And great to see Nishimura and Matsuyama having their little post-race debrief as well. They might be rivals in this series, but as Steve has said, there really is a community feeling in this championship, and a lot of riders who are of course, the same nationality. In this case, we're talking about 2 Japanese riders, but we saw 2 Thai riders up in the top 6 positions. We saw 2 Indonesians up in the top 6 as well. We've got Malaysians elsewhere, and even Australian on the grid. So my point is, we've got riders here who share a great experience of the early days of riding in their career.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the one thing that we've seen over the course of the last 5 years, is all the riders have really evolved and their careers have developed. We've been able to see a lot of them actually take the lessons they learned from Asia Talent Cup, even the relationships they've had from Asia Talent Cup, and then bring that on to the next stage as well. And it's always interesting when you go into, say, the MotoGP paddock, where quite a few riders have been able to make that transition into the Grand Prix paddock, and they'll still go down to the Red Bull Rookies race to try and help any of the riders down in that class. They all understand the value of these types of championships. They give you a chance to race on the world stage, and for all these riders, they'll certainly take advantage of that.
They certainly all wanted to take advantage of the chairs, didn't they? But the moment they sat down, they were called up into action. You can see in the distance the packed grandstand here at the Chang International Circuit as a support category, of course, for World Superbike, this Asia Talent Cup. 2nd round of the season is taking place. We still have more race action to come, of course, from Buriram here tomorrow. But for the moment, it's time to celebrate for our top 3. 3rd position, Matsuyama. 2nd position, Nishimura. And our winner, Munandar, Afrizza Munandar of Indonesia, our race winner. Munandar then about to receive the trophy for the race victory first we get Nishimura taking the second position, the 17-year-old Sho Nishimura of Japan. His fellow countrymen alongside him on the podium, Takuma Matsuyama. And in the context of the points, of course, those are also the top two overall. The one rider among the top three who didn't manage to pick up a podium place here was Putra, who could only manage 5th position and drops back. And now we have the Indonesian national anthem. Fridza Manandar is your race winner, race 1 of 2 this weekend at the Pirelli Thai round as the support class for World Superbike. The Asia Talent Cup, the second round of their season, will move into its 4th race of 2019 here tomorrow, and more great action to look forward to. And since in the opening round in Qatar, we saw even more of a fight come race 2, the riders using their learning from the opening race, we'd expect a similar situation here come tomorrow. So here we go then with the confirmation of that result. It's Manandar who takes the victory ahead of Nishimura in 2nd, Matsuyama in 3rd, Bwasri, Putra and Thong Napakan rounding out a top 6 group, and then a separate fight in the end, Firdaus slipping away from those top 6. So we look forward to race number 2 here tomorrow in Thailand, and I would expect, Steve English alongside me, that we'll have similar rivalries and similar contenders to what we've seen both here today and from the opening event of the season last time out in Qatar.
Yeah, more the same tomorrow for sure in the Asia Talent Cup, and you would expect the same riders to be up at the front that were able to build a decent enough gap between themselves and the rest of the field. We saw Firdaus that finished up in 7th spot, that he was even able to stay in that lead group for pretty much all the race as well. So you'd expect him to be able to try and make a step tomorrow as well. But all these riders now, they'll have learned an awful lot from that race. And it's going to be really interesting to see exactly how they manage to try and find some improvements for tomorrow.
So, race number 1 is complete here in Thailand, but race 2 is still to come. Looking forward to more action to see whether Nishimura can be dethroned and whether Manandar can make it a double. In the meanwhile, we leave you with the best moments of race number 1 from round 2 of the Asia Talent Cup.